Buena Park, California is home to one of the oldest family theme parks in the country, Knott's Berry Farm. Founded in 1920, Knott's Berry Farm began as nothing more than 20 acres of farmland leased by Walter and Cordelia Knott. Walter Knott was an ingenious man with a strong work ethic. His lifelong dream was to become a farmer, and after many years of struggling to homestead in the rugged Mojave Desert, an opportunity to fulfill his dream came about from his cousin Jim Preston. Walter and Cordelia moved to Buena Park and spent most of their life savings on farm equipment and berry plants. The struggle to succeed seemed insurmountable, especially in the first year when California suffered an unusual winter frost that lasted several weeks, nearly wiping the farm out. When the Depression hit, the cost to produce the fruit exceeded the price they could get for it. Walter never lost hope. He began to experiment with a new strain of berry plant, which he obtained from his friend Rudolph Boysen. The new plant was a cross between a loganberry, raspberry, and blackberry. Walter was successful in the development of this new plant, and the result was the famous boysenberry. Walter realized he could get a better price for his produce if he sold it directly to the customers. He decided to build a roadside berry stand along the long stretch of highway known as Beach Boulevard. Before long, the roadside stand became a very popular stop for travelers going to and from the beach. Cordelia worked right alongside her husband, making biscuits, pies, and jams to be sold in the berry stand as well. As the popularity grew, Cordelia came up with another idea: to serve her home-cooked fried chicken to a few weary travelers. Neither Walter nor Cordelia had any idea how a few chicken dinners served on their personal wedding china would impact the rest of their lives. Soon word of mouth spread like wildfire, and people were waiting in line 3 to 4 hours just to get a taste of Mrs. Knott's fried chicken. As the vast amount of people continued to line up, Walter decided he needed to do something to entertain the guests as they waited. He began by building displays paying homage to the Old West and the early pioneers. His crowning achievement was the construction of an authentic ghost town, which still stands to this day. People came from miles around to eat at the chicken dinner restaurant and experience this ghost town firsthand. In 1960, a man by the name of Bud Hurlbut, who was well known for his handcrafted carousels and kiddie trains, suggested to Walter the idea of a mine train ride that could entertain and educate visitors about the early days of mining. Walter agreed and gave Bud the green light to build this historical ride. The Calico Mine Ride was just the beginning of many changes to come. In 1968, Knott's enclosed the entire area and began charging a general admission, which officially transformed the farm into a theme park. Today, Knott's Berry Farm boasts 160 acres of world-class rides, unique family shows, and one-of-a-kind attractions. Knott's Berry Farm is also famous for something else. Something that began in the early 1970s. A one-of-a-kind event as historic as the farm itself. It only happens once a year, and it appears mysteriously during the fall season. Thousands have experienced this event, and most will say it's like nothing you've ever seen. Many believe the phenomenon was caused by a horrible curse. Folklore refers to it as the mysterious veil that rises and falls during the October season. It can cause chills of terror in some and complete euphoria in others. It is known the world over as the first and largest attraction of its kind. It is the one and only Halloween Haunt. Knott's Berry Farm of Buena Park, California is the location for Knott's Scary Farm's Halloween Haunt, an event that has taken place here since 1973. But what exactly is the Halloween Haunt? Most people see it as one of the largest haunted attractions in the world, considered to be the granddaddy of all Halloween haunts. It's been quoted as the ultimate Halloween experience, the biggest Halloween party anywhere. And it's one of the only places in the world where you can feel like you're starring in your very own horror movie. And although the attraction itself is well known, the story behind it is not. How did it start? What was it like in the beginning? And how did it evolve into the most successful Halloween attraction in the world? Join us as we reveal the stories and secrets behind this historic event. Welcome to Season of Screams. By the late 1960s, Knott's Berry Farm was considered to be a world-class theme park, a great place to take the family for a day of fun. You could take a wild journey on the Calico Log Ride, or explore the deep, mysterious caverns on the Calico Mine Ride. Strolling through Ghost Town was like stepping out of a time machine and into the early days of the Old West. With authentic buildings and actual gunslingers roaming the streets, the experience of Ghost Town was as real as it got. In October of 1973, something very strange happened at Knott's, and Ghost Town took on a different appearance. An unusual fog began to emanate from the buildings, and freakish monsters emerged. What was happening? It was the very first Halloween haunt. Almost out of nowhere, this incredible event took shape and has become famous the world over. So what was the inspiration for the Halloween haunt, and how did it come to be? The year was 1972, when a unique idea was presented to the entertainment director of Knott's at the time, Bill Hollingshead.
So when I was at Knott's Berry Farm in 1972, it was 1972, I got a call from a guy named Gary Blair, who was the manager of Larry Vincent, who was Seymour.
Larry Vincent was best known for his campy character Seymour, a self-proclaimed master of the macabre. Seymour hosted a show on local Los Angeles television called Fright Nights.
They'd run an old cornball monster movie, and then he'd make asides.
The biggest thing about Seymour, what set him apart from every other horror host that there had been up till then, was that he was absolutely frank about what a load of crap the movies were that he was running. He called his viewers fringies, and he endlessly pointed out every flaw in his movies, insulted you for tuning in and wasting your life watching this crap. And he was hysterical. It was like Groucho Marx in a graveyard. I'll tell you, fringies, this movie is a real load. Next week's little grabber is Invasion of the Animal People. I should warn you, this movie is not as good as it sounds.
People were just really into Seymour, and he became a cult figure. So Gary Blair called me up in 1972, I think around first part of September. He says, Bill, I understand you have a theater with a CinemaScope screen and two 35mm movie projectors. Why don't we put Seymour in there and run a big Halloween event? And I thought, hey, we could do that, and we could bring in the monsters.
Booking Seymour into the Knott's Theater presented some very unique opportunities for them.
I was called into a meeting, and Bill Hollingshead was there, and a George Condos was there, and a Martha Boyd was there, and we started talking about what we could do.
And we said, this could be an incredible special event, hard ticket. And we got into about the third week of September, and we said, there's just not enough time. We only have about 4, 5, 6 weeks to pull this thing together. So I called Gary back and I said, call me in the spring of next year, and let's just really make something out of this.
The Knott family, which controlled Knott's Berry Farm at that time, didn't care very much for the idea. At that time, there was only one person who, in the Knott family, who was in favor of the idea completely from beginning to end. And remarkably, it was Walter Knott. Walter Knott took a walk through the park, and he had a meeting, as he usually did, conversations with his key people. And this particular day, he had Champ Gabler walking with him, and they were discussing the fact that there was a vote that had been taken, apparently within the family, that was negative about this idea of the haunt. Walter said he wanted to know what the idea was. What was it we wanted to do? Champ Gabler was speaking for Bill Hollingshead and the crew, and he told them, we'd like to have a big Halloween party. And Walter wanted to know what the situation was. Well, the family had voted negatively against it. And at about this point, they had reached a landmark within Knott's, which is a bench that has two permanent figures on each end. Walt sat down in between the two figures and took a moment and looked around, looked at Ghost Town, and said, I want a party. I want to see it here. I'm voting for it. That's my vote. That's all I have to say on the matter. For Walt to vote unanimously over the rest of the people was rare. He usually deferred a lot of the decision-making to his family. This was different. This was something he wanted. This was something he approved, and it wasn't going to be discussed. I will always respect a man for that.
Now we're going for the premiere year, 1973. So I met with George Condos again and Martha, and had conversations with Sandy Parker, who was the theater manager of what was then called the John Wayne Theater. And she said, well, you know, I have makeup artists and I have all the theater people, because she was associated more with theater. And we could do costumes, and we could do set designs, and we could do phony, or the fake cobwebs and spray, and you know, old U.S. Army camouflage netting, and drape it over the overhangs of the shacks and make everything kind of creepy.
Well, we can use our stuntmen as street characters, as monsters. And we only had about 7 then, but you know, that was the idea.
So it was Martha Boyd who came up with the name, the Halloween Haunt. Then it became Knott's Scary Farm, which of course was a natural. So Knott's Scary Farm's Halloween Haunt.
The show was rehearsed, the park had been decorated, and the stage was set for the very first Halloween haunt. The anticipation was high, and no one knew what to expect, or if they would ever do this event again.
Today, as people look back on the first Halloween haunt, they don't think of it as anything really big. But back then, it really was, because nobody had ever done anything like that.
I just remember a lot of people come running through the gate as we opened. They were, you know, running and screaming.
We had to shut down the ticket box. We turned away people at the Halloween Haunt. It was that popular.
We didn't know what we had created in terms of the volume of interest. So when we saw all these people at the front gate, it was like, oh, what do we do now?
We knew we had something actually on the very first one. We had tried other events, and it had not worked, and this just seemed to work.
So we said, we have a hit on our hands here.
Seymour's show went off without a hitch and was very well received by the guests.
They loved him. I mean, he was just really, you know, he was applauded wildly.
He was very popular at the time because he had a TV show, and so he was very popular. The place was packed. They loved him.
Seymour had been on the air about 2 years, and he was huge. He was huge. He'd already left Channel 9 for Channel 5 for a bigger show. Fright Night with Seymour had become Seymour's Monster Rally. The kids stood out in line for a long time to get the good seats to this show, and we did not have an empty seat.
He was really loved. He was really loved here in Southern California.
The street characters for that first year were inspired by some of the famous movie monsters of the time.
We had Frankenstein, Wolfman, Count Dracula, and the Mummy alive and in person. They were live flesh and blood. Their flesh, your blood.
I remember that there was about 7 or 8, or maybe 9 of us on the streets, and we had the Planet of the Apes characters that Gene Witham did the makeup for.
Yeah, the first year I was in a Planets of the Apes costume. And Gene Witham had, and I think he said it was like original pieces from the movie.
The characters were the Planet of the Apes. Each one had a 3-piece appliance. And it took normally 3.5 hours to do each one. We had an hour and a half to make up 37 people in full makeup that would last 5 hours.
And they put these pieces on our face with spirit gum, and it was a long time. It was a lot of work to get into that, and then the costume and everything. And so we got all made up, and off we went out into the park.
But it was all traditional monsters that I remember. It was like a guy dressed up as the Wolfman. Another picture I've got is someone in a Planet of the Apes outfit, Dracula, Mummy, all of the very, very classic monsters at that point.
And that's what actually gave birth to the street monsters. I mean, it worked so well, and the things that worked well, we certainly kept in the show.
Bud Hurlbut was the creator of both the Mine Ride and Log Ride, and was still in charge of both of the rides at the time.
Bud Hurlbut, he's the grand old man of those, the Mine Ride and the Log Ride, and was very revered as a pioneer in those major thrill rides and themed rides. And he said, hey, I can put my guys in costumes, and we can put in the black light, and we can put in the scary light or the strobe lights. So everybody rose to the occasion.
The success of that first year went far beyond anyone's expectation. The plan to do it again the following year was without question, and Larry Vincent was again booked as the headliner for the second annual Halloween Haunt. Unfortunately, Larry was diagnosed with cancer shortly before October of 1974 and wasn't sure he was going to be able to do the show.
Larry Seymour had come down with cancer, and he was in the hospital. And he was very frail, and Gary Blair said, I don't know if he can even make it. But he had had so much fun.
He was gaunt, he was weak, and doing that show energized him like you wouldn't believe. You know, there was a huge roar, this giant ovation for him every night, and he just absorbed energy from it. You could just see it fill him with life. As the weekend progressed, he got more and more energetic and more up and more like the old Larry. It was fantastic to see.
It just was the thrill of his life, and he literally got up out of a sick bed. And then we had Chuck Jones, the magician. We integrated him into the show, and also Mona Lisa, who to me was really the first Elvira.
Mona Lisa, a predecessor to Elvira, was played by Lisa Clark. Lisa got her start in television and was hostess to a sci-fi movie show in the early 60s.
Mona Lisa was a horror host in San Diego. And when Seymour had first been a big success, they when he left Channel 9 and went to Channel 5, Channel 9 brought her in to fill his slot and compete with her. And very nice lady, great to work with. Anything, look, I want to do this with you in the script. Fine, I'm just happy to be here.
People in the LA area didn't quite know who she was, but it really didn't matter because her character was what was important. Her look, the vamp type. Yeah, like Vampira, only it was Mona Lisa. So we integrated her with Larry, and Larry sat on a stool at the side and he narrated the movie, and then we'd take Mona Lisa and put her in one of Chuck Jones's cut the lady in half, and then we'd saw Mona Lisa in half and pull the parts. So it was like a vaudeville magic movie stage show.
The bit I wrote was that Seymour would, as soon as they cut her in half, Chuck's already off, and the Frankenstein monster and the Mummy are separating her. And as soon as she's separated, I have Larry stride out and take over the stage. And he tells the Mummy, take that one and ship her to Cleveland, and take that one and ship it to Zanzibar. and they exit through opposite sides of the stage with the box. And then you never see Mona Lisa again. She doesn't even come out for a bow at the end. She's shipped off.
Although Larry was very sick, he was the consummate professional and hid his illness while on stage.
He was very ill at the time. He had been in the hospital. I literally drove to the St. Joseph's Medical Center and picked him up at the hospital and drove him to Knott's Berry Farm the night before the haunts began. He got out there that first time, and the audience, who did not know he was ill, they went nuts. There was no thought in his mind that that last performance at Knott's Berry Farm would in fact be, as it was in fact, his final performance ever in his career. Good evening, Fringies! I'd like to tell you all how glad I am to be back at Knott's Berry Farm for the second time at their Halloween haunt. I'd like to, but it's not my style. Well, Fringies, we've got quite a show for you here this evening. I've got one of my famous thrillers for you. Don't worry, this is a goodie. It's none other than the immortal Boris Karloff in The Bride of Frankenstein. For your further edification, I, Seymour, will personally narrate this film. Proj, roll the film. Well, Fringies, the time has come for me to make that dread sojourn into the world that lies out there, beyond the slimiest of walls. On behalf of Knott's Berry Farm and the John Wayne Theater, I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. I'd like to, but it's not my style. Through the wall, his television theme music would come up that we used also at Knott's. He's through the slimy wall and out, and the show is over.
The following March, Larry lost his battle with cancer and passed away at the age of 50.
That Larry died. He'd gotten out of his deathbed to come and do that for the 3 or 4 days, and then went back and, he died.
And I got up one morning and there was a note taped to my front door by my next door neighbor. He'd left it before driving up to work, and it just said 3 words: Larry is dead. But the last time we talked, he did tell me what his thoughts on it. If you watch a bird, this was what he actually said, if you watch a bird fly off into the sun and you can't see the bird anymore, it doesn't mean the bird is gone, it's just gone where you can't see it. He says that I'm flying off into the sun.
After Larry's passing, the void left behind was going to be extremely difficult to fill. After all, it was Seymour that provided the main feature for the Halloween haunt. The question came up regarding how they would continue the event without him.
So, okay, we can't just do this with Mona Lisa. Who can we do this now? And I said, well, we've got the Universal Pictures monsters. We have, believe me, this is how it came out. I'm saying, we have Frankenstein, Count Dracula, the Mummy, and Wolfman Jack.
I'm your boogeyman, I'm your boogeyman. Turn me out, I'm your boogeyman, I'm your boogeyman. Do what you want, boogeyman, I'm your boogeyman. Turn me out, I'm your boogeyman, I'm your boogeyman. Do what you want.
Robert Weston Smith, a.k.a. Wolfman Jack, took the reins in 1975 as host to the Halloween haunt. Wolfman Jack was indisputably the world's most famous DJ and was just coming off the success of the film American Graffiti.
Unnatural, the Wolfman. So I called up Don Kelly, who is his personal manager. I said, Don, we want to replace Seymour with Wolfman and make him the star of the 75, wouldn't it be? 75 Halloween haunt. And I hung up the phone and the tires screeched outside the building, and he was down from LA, and we sat there and we laid out this show in about an hour that we could put Frankenstein into the show and with a band, and we'd do the Monster Mash with Frankenstein.
Well, hi all you second-hand Frankensteins and you drugstore Draculas. Hallelujah, we gonna party here tonight. And if you want to party, I want to hear you say, oh yeah. I say if you want to move and groove, I want everybody to say right out. You really want to get down, let me hear you howl. Spring out the grave digger 4 now. And listen, everybody, get on the floor. Let's dance.
And we had 3 girl singers, and we put them in witch costumes, and then But Wolfman was Wolfman.
Wolfman Jack, X-E-R-B. We gonna have fun, make romance, take that last chance on a high school dance. Out of sight. Woo. Oh, I was out there in the audience. I saw a lot of good-looking people out there tonight. This is gonna be a great night. Ain't no ugly people in this audience. No way. Send all the ugly people down to Disneyland.
But he was a character. So he was there, I know, in 1975 and 1976.
Wolfman Jack hosted the Halloween Haunt until the end of the 1970s. By that time, the Haunt was well on its way to becoming the largest Halloween event in the world. Bill Hollingshead worked at Knott's until 1976. During his time, he's credited for increasing the park's attendance significantly.
My forte was celebrity talent. Seymour's the celebrity. And what do? You take a celebrity, build a theme around it, and then you build theme shows around the theme. And I give credit to Sandy Parker, who was the theater manager, who said, we have Gene Witham. He can do the makeup. And Gary Salisbury. I should mention Gary because he was the street character supervisor, so he had all these gunfights and the hangings and all the character type horror things that were going on in the ghost town area.
It was a group of people who came together during those certain years that'll never happen again. Tremendous talent, tremendous creativity. They all came together at Knott's Berry Farm, and there was like an explosion there, where a lot of good things came out of that.
I wish I could have bottled it, because I would be the richest man in the world. The people that were involved at the very beginning had a dedication that I'm sure still lives today to the haunt. We're all joined at it because it's part of us, and it always will be.
I didn't realize how big it had grown. I didn't realize that people from all over the world followed it and knew about it. And I just heard recently how big it's really gotten. And yeah, I feel good about that. That's kind of a neat thing to think that I was there at the beginning, that I participated in that for 3 years and was part of it all and knew the people that started it. It's a great feeling. I treasure that.
It's the biggest event that any amusement park has ever put on in the world, and the biggest revenue-producing event, and it's a phenomenon.
I sure wish I had a percentage. But that's fine. It pleases me to know that I've left a legacy, and it also pleases me even more to know that somebody's come around and said, "Hey, weren't you the guy that put this thing together?" And I go, "Well, yeah, I was that guy."
In the early days of the haunt, Ghost Town was well known as the most foreboding area of the park. Fog filled the night from Main Street to Calico Square, and in that fog lurked the unknown. For the faint of heart, it was fairly easy to find refuge from the terror in other areas of the farm. However, that is not the case today. Over the years, the curse of the haunt has spread to encompass major portions of the park, and now there is literally no safe place to hide from these monsters, except maybe in the restrooms. Today, along with Ghost Town, are 3 other scare zones that provide their own unique blend of terror: the Gauntlet, the Swamp, and Carnival. And each one of the areas offers something mysterious for the visitor. With plenty of fog, unanticipated scares, and some of the most twisted, horrifying creatures found anywhere, the Halloween Haunt scare zones are a nightmare come true. the decision was made to create the very first Halloween haunt, it was only natural that Ghost Town would play a significant role. With its rustic old buildings and genuine atmosphere, Ghost Town created the perfect scare zone.
To be a monster in Ghost Town it's immersive. You've got these settings that are, for all intents and purposes, real buildings that have been moved there, that very much look like a ghost town.
They have a very good natural setting. Ghost Town. The name itself says it all.
Oh, it's awesome. There's nothing like Ghost Town.
Ghost Town.
We walked in and instantly made a left into Ghost Town. And I heard the wind and I saw the fog. And at first I didn't know if I wanted to walk down Main Street because I knew that I couldn't see anything and I knew they were out there and I knew they were looking for me.
In the early years, Ghost Town was the one and only scare zone at the haunt. And just as it does today, fog filled the streets and monsters loomed in the shadows. There was an added feature that no longer exists today. They were called peek-ins, and they provided guests a startling scare when they least expected it.
The peek-ins, gosh, I think that began on the second or third year. We did hire a few people and put them in Wingley's Laundry, the assay office, a few of the peek-ins that when you actually come into Ghost Town, you would never expect a live person. They have music, and we left the music sort of the same. And so when somebody's looking in, all of a sudden, something inside jumps at you, and it's scary to death.
I started off as a peek-in in Ghost Town. At that time we had monsters in the peek-ins, which is, if you go into Ghost Town now, you'll see where the sheriff's office is, where the Wingley Laundry is. We actually had talent located in those.
Now, I'd never tried one of these peek-ins, so I thought, well, that'll be interesting. Let me try one of those. And what we were supposed to do in those peek-ins as monsters, we were supposed to just go in, freeze absolutely still, and then wait for a crowd to kind of gather around the window, and then jump out at them and scare them. So I went into that Chinese, where the laundry guy's ironing. I went in there, and I just stood perfectly still. And I guess this lady, thinking, I don't want to be with the let me show my little boy something a little bit more safe, came up to the window, and she said, oh, look, he won't hurt you. He's not real. See, look. And she picked him up and looked in the window, and right then, I just grabbed the window. I was only about that far away from him. And I remember it was just like in a movie. She just went perfectly still and just went right over like an ironing board on the ground on the other side. And I looked out, and the kid's laying there, spread eagle too. I ran around the back, and security was already there and said, get out of here before because they were both passed out. Now, I'd scared people so they passed out, but I'd never scared two people at the same time, so there was a double pass out. And when I came around, that's exactly what they'd done. So they got me out of there very, very quickly because they were afraid when she woke up that, you know, it would be really bad.
Early on, the Ghost Town street monsters consisted of the stunt performers and the year-round employees. The additional monsters that were hired for the event were placed as peek-ins, where they remained for the entire shift. 1977 was a major turning point for the street monsters, when unexpectedly there was a problem getting one of the actors into their designated peek-in position.
In '77, when I began, I was only supposed to be part of the peek-ins. I was going to be in the table where the people were playing cards. That was great. It was a great job. I thought this would be a lot of fun. So the first night we went around and everybody got put in their peek-in rooms. But when they came to mine, the door was locked. And so the guy said, well, look, let's get a key. And so they got on a walkie-talkie and asked somebody to bring down a key. They could never find one. So they said, well, look, we'll get you a key tomorrow night. In the meantime, I want to just roam around and scare people. And so I did. So suddenly there's this guy out there, and I remember just getting totally into the role and acting like a maniac and, you know, out of it. And it was freaking the crowds out. And so I looked over near the middle of the night, and I saw that there were some guys from entertainment standing over there. I think Gary Salisbury and a couple other people were standing over, and they were watching, and they were laughing and pointing at everybody's reaction. Make a long story short, the next night, all the monsters came out of their peek-ins and were let loose into Knott's Berry Farm, so I must have done something right.
The peek-ins continued with live actors until the early 90s, when they finally had to eliminate them to preserve the aging buildings. Ghost Town remained the only scare zone until the addition of the Gauntlet. Modeled after a medieval theme, the Gauntlet offered a sharp contrast to Ghost Town and was set up in the Camp Snoopy area of the park.
You're going to find royalty, so you're going to have a king and a queen. You're going to find jesters who are there to provide the royalty with some entertainment, which is myself and 4 other jesters and whatnot. Then you're going to find the different peoples of our realm, which consist of pipers. There's a clan Magor, as a matter of fact, is the name of their clan. You're going to find them outfitted in kilts and whatnot. They're led by Piper, who is the lead piper for our area. He actually will be found out on the streets of Camp Snoopy playing bagpipes on occasion. You'll also find our barbarians, which are led by Beast, and you're going to find them outfit into the different animal print and the furs and whatnot and leather. Just very barbarian, I guess. It's the best way I can describe it.
So when you come into camp, you kind of get the idea a little bit that, hey, this is different, a little bit more of the medieval realm kind of thing coming in. I usually try to stand in the center sometimes so they see, oh, look, it's a girl. And they think, oh, it's safe, we'll go over there. And most of the guys know to use that as the ploy is, I draw them in, and then you'll have Beast or a jester or one of the knights come sliding past you, and that's usually how we start their entrance off, coming inside the Gauntlet.
The Gauntlet was established, and the Camp Snoopy area became as famous and foreboding as Ghost Town. The unique characters found there offered their own brand of terror, and they worked together extremely hard to make their mark on the Halloween haunt.
Instilled their heart, their soul, their blood, their sweat, their tears, their hearts, everything, their mind, their physical body into this family. And that is kind of why we have such pride in every little thing that we do. That's why we take this very serious. Haunt is not something that we just do 1 month out of the year. Haunt is something that we do year-round.
Both Ghost Town and the Gauntlet started off with only a few creatures lurking in the dark. And as the event grew each year, so did the amount of monsters.
Another thing that's changed is the number of monsters that we have on the streets. I think there must have been, maybe 20 people on the Ghost Town streets, 20, 25, and that was about it. And now we've got nearly 100.
In the days of 83, 84, our team was very small. I mean, we had the whole Ghost Town, 10, 12, 14 guys and girls to cover that area. Now we're up to 98 talent covering all the streets of Ghost Town. Now with 98 folks, they're all over the place. They're everywhere. I think the scares now are a little bit better because there's more of them. There's more people and there's more gotcha.
If you go into Ghost Town, they're there. If you go over to Camp Snoopy, they're there. If you go by Reflection Lake, they're there too. You go in the mazes, they're everywhere.
And you never really know where they're going to come out. They're in the trees, they're under the buildings, they're in the props. Sometimes you think that they're a prop and they're not.
With the overwhelming success of Ghost Town and the Gauntlet, it was only a matter of time before Knott's would include more areas to scare.
We allow the guests to go from Ghost Town to the Gauntlet, to the swamp, into Boardwalk, and they can't get away from the monsters, I mean, it's this total immersion, and then they go from maze to maze to maze, and each one with a different theme, but each one giving them another punch. There's such a total immersion into this event. It's an incredible time.
Like I said, in years past, we never had any talent in the Boardwalk area. We had no talent in the swamp area. Those were kind of called the safe zones. Well, there's no such thing as a safe zone now. We have 20 guys in the swamp, guys and girls in the swamp. We have 98 in Ghost Town. We have 40 monsters in Camp Snoopy.
The Reflection Lake area, located between Indian Trails and Fiesta Village, provided the perfect setting for a very different kind of scare zone.
Walking through the swamp, it's very dark, a lot of fog. sounds of animals, chirps, crickets, theatrical lighting to make it eerie, creepy, decrepitated trees, and creatures all over.
There's many characters. We have scientists, we have researchers, we have animals, we have things that are dead, we have things that are living. It's kind of a mixture.
A family from the backwoods, that's my family. I'm Pa Otis. And scientists that are the undead, they're ripped apart. And
obtaining a spot on one of the street zones is a highly coveted position. It can take up to 7 years of working in mazes before a monster can move up and out onto the streets.
The first year it was a blast. I bent a few rules. They said maze monsters stay inside, and I bent a few rules, and I snuck out on my lunch breaks. I said, I'm gonna go take lunch across the park over at Lakeside. That got me out on the streets so I could see a little bit about what it was about. And I remember the first time being just almost overwhelmed. In a mask, in my maze outfit, walking out on the streets and seeing so many people. And it was a little intimidating, but I was like, oh, I want to be out here.
when you're in a maze, you're usually in a themed room, and you need to stay in that room, because if your costume doesn't blend with something 5 rooms down the way, it doesn't look right. Now when you're in a themed scare zone, you have that whole area to roam.
And there was always some sort of mysticism about what the street monsters did and how they scared differently than we did. When you're in a maze, you're really confined to a small area, and it's almost what I like to call a two-dimensional scare, because you're scaring people that are directly in front of you. Now when you're on the streets, it's completely different. You are in the mix. People are all around you, and you can use that to your advantage, but it also can be a disadvantage if you're not comfortable with what you're doing.
It was kind of overwhelming going from this little tiny closet to Ghost Town, you know, where you've got 4 or 5 streets to go into.
For the monsters that work the scare zones, the experience is like nothing else in the world. For the guests, a scare zone can be many things. It could be the most fun you'll ever have being scared, or your worst nightmare come true. Once you enter through the main gates, you have 2 choices. You can either venture into Ghost Town or through the Gauntlet. No matter which way you choose, the journey will be the most terrifying moments you'll ever experience. The good news is, if you happen to make it out of either area, you'll find yourself in one of the Halloween Haunt's 11 mazes or rethemed rides. And yes, that is the good news. The bad news is, each one of these specially themed attractions is more horrifying than the next. Dark and narrow pathways to navigate and tons of horrible creatures make it a hair-raising experience you'll never forget. And if you're able to walk or ride through these attractions with your eyes open, Dare to take note of the detail and design that goes into them. Each one has a specific storyline, and great care is taken to ensure the nightmare is the fright experience of a lifetime. Each October, Knott's Berry Farm makes a miraculous transformation into the Halloween haunt. Although it seems to appear almost by magic, the process of building the haunt is quite involved. Many people from all walks of life come together to make the event happen each year. Planning begins in January and continues throughout the year until opening day. The designers get together with all of their ideas and begin the process with scripts, storyboards, and preliminary drawings.
It starts out with concepts and selling the concept. Then we'll develop to storyboards and ground plan. They can happen simultaneously. Sometimes one will happen before the other. But it always starts with the story first.
And then from that, we usually pick 2 or 3 themes, and we just dream it out. We basically will pick, we'll go room to room and just list out all the rooms.
Prop lists, costume lists, special effects, lighting, sound, working with all the departments that coordinate all that. And then the art direction and the product. Then working with the talent.
Try to think of something new that we haven't done before. There's different types of mazes, gore, good, gone, bad. Pick a theme and do some research. Lots of research is involved with either movies, making sure it's current, and then deciding where the talent should be, because that's the, I think, most important part of any maze is the scare itself, obviously. That's what people come for, so.
Once the basic concepts have been approved, they're put into the hands of the construction department. Sets are built and props are fabricated beginning as early as June. Knott's employs an entire construction and prop department year-round. And as they get closer to October, additional staff is hired to ensure the haunt is completed on time.
By the end of haunt, 1 year, we've already got a game plan as to what we probably want to do the next year. What's worked, what hasn't worked. So we start November, as we're striking, putting stuff away we're going to use next year, throwing away stuff we're not, and then planning towards next year. We start design immediately. Design is done by June on all the mazes. Production starts building 1st of June into July, and we start loading in the mazes the end of July, and haunt's there again. So it's 12 months.
We start this pretty much right after the summer show goes up, which is in June. We start preparing any major big sets that have to be built. We try to build it as soon as possible when we get the drawings. Every year we hire people seasonally.
This is like a vacation for me. Even though there's a lot of hard work, I'm lifting walls, I'm lifting floors. It's just so much fun because you get to work with great people who are all professional, they all know what they're doing.
We've got about an 80%, maybe 90% return rate, which is really something considering that the job I'm doing as a day carpenter, temporary carpenter, starts in August, ends for most people in October, and restarts again for a couple of months in November while they strike all the sets. So it's only 2 or 3 months out of the year, but people will leave their regular jobs, take vacation, just to come here and build things.
The challenges of building the haunt each year can be daunting, to say the least. With several mazes to complete and major rides to re-theme in the time allotted, everything has to come together like a well-oiled machine.
It's a lot harder than it seems, and I think people don't realize that there's a lot of fire codes, that every hallway has to be 4 feet, that you have to have emergency exits every so many feet, and it's wheelchair access. There's a lot that's involved that people just don't realize.
Sometimes we get plans, and when we get out there, there's like a tree or a post that's not there on the plan, so we have to work around that.
Trying to find things like the rides, for instance, are a big challenge. The Red Moon Massacre I did. There's a lot of limitations in what we can do in there, you know, and it's hard to keep talent interested in staying in there because they get wet, but you know, it really is scary. I mean, we need it there. So working with a mountain, you know, it's really kind of hard to figure out what to do and how to get it to be a different theme, or, you know, place the talent in the right positions.
I think a lot of effort goes into trying to work within the limited space that there is in these, because you have to remember when these rides were first created, there was no Halloween haunt, and they weren't designed to accommodate something like this. So I think it's ingenious that the designers and the construction builders and the decorators, they utilize whatever space that they have, and they actually create something terrifying to look at, or it's actually terrifying to go through.
For the attractions that occupy the park's regular ride space, construction is delayed until after Labor Day, making the pace to complete those particular attractions a bit more frantic.
We close down rides only when we need to, at the last moment to prepare for Halloween. We try to keep things open until Labor Day because of the summer events that happen here at Knott's Berry Farm. Some of the places that are more backstage, we are fortunate enough to get into earlier, and we start doing that stuff in the summer. But some of the things like Log Ride and Mine Ride, we won't even start until Labor Day.
The maze builders, they start at a certain area, a level where it's usually concrete or it's a gutted ride, and then they do all this work. And a lot of times, because of the park opening and stuff, they're working late at night and everything.
Once construction of a maze is finished, it now needs to be painted, dressed, and props added to complete the final touch. There are plenty of props to choose from, or if needed, they can simply fabricate new props to fit any particular theme the design department can dream up.
It's just such a huge event that you've got the carpenters, safety, paint, you know, electrical. Props is the very last people to get in. So Laura the Vampire, I believe we had a day and a half to do the entire maze. You know, a lot of times it's just rely heavily on prepare ahead of time. Have everything made, ready to go. You've got this time frame, get it in.
A lot of it does happen here, you know, in the dressing of it. So we don't, sometimes we can't think of something, and a good prop person would come in here and think of, okay, well, maybe you need chicken feathers and blood by these chicken coops. Each of us have 3 to 4 designs for mazes and a show on top of it, so it's a lot to cover. So we have a very, very good, experienced crew of painters, proppers that come in and can pick up and fill in some of the holes that gets left behind. Very good support staff.
Each of the mazes and rethemed rides have their own unique storyline. Great care is always taken to ensure what is born on paper makes its way to reality.
A lot of our mazes are unique in the fact that they have their own special theme, and so a theme will be popular with just a certain demographic of people. So people that really like Alice in Wonderland will like the Malice in Wonderland maze, and we'll make that very popular. Certain scares we know just work out really well, and so we'll want to repeat that year after year. So I think there's enough of a variety that there's something that's going to appeal to a lot of different people.
There's plans that are in development for future haunts that, if approved, will be pretty stunning.
They're amazing talent. Some of these people are just, you know, you give them something and they make it 20 times better, and it's like, great. It's a lot of fun.
But it is very gratifying to see something happen. It could be even better than you've ever planned, or it can sometimes not turn out that great, but that gives you a chance to fix the problems next year or try to modify things.
Sometimes it comes out exactly like I drew it, and sometimes it doesn't, but it's better, or, you know, and because all these people get involved. I mean, it's a very collaborative process, which I enjoy. You know, I could be home drawing a piece of, you know, artwork and selling it on a street corner, but I'd much rather, you know, draw a little piece of paper and then see it come alive with all these people involved, and everyone's excited about your idea, you know, and it's it's really satisfying.
It's a nightmare that, for me, is a fun nightmare. It's a dream nightmare.
Ever since the first maze in 1975, the 10 chilling chambers, the Halloween Haunt mazes have been a major factor in guests returning year after year. The attention to detail and the unique theme each one possess make these attractions a one-of-a-kind anywhere.
Knott's has innovated the design in mazes. They've started from day one using distinct themes throughout their mazes. Either the maze will have a constant theme that goes throughout, or it will be kind of a cornucopia of different themes within that maze. And I believe that Knott's is the one who really fine-tuned that art.
I started as a tech, and the day after summer ended, walls went up and people started loading in these things into these mazes. And I started working on what was Bates Motel over in Wilderness Dance Hall. And it was 3 of us basically building this thing. And I was amazed at just how much work we're doing for this one maze, and then looking around and seeing it all over the park. I was captivated.
I was amazed at the quality back then. I mean, just the monsters, and it just felt like a movie coming to life. And that's what was so unique about it. And I mean, I was hooked.
I think the atmosphere of the entire park is different than anywhere else, just because the whole park is really themed, you know, and you can really lose yourself and have a blast.
The development of the Haunt mazes has been very significant over the years. With new innovative technology and design standards, the inspiration for the mazes comes from many different sources.
Go to lots of movies, watch, keep up on pop culture as much as possible, museums, historical places. So that's the fun part, is the research, and that's sort of ongoing, and just try to make that a part of a lifestyle.
Defining a haunt maze is almost impossible through words. The best way to describe it is to close your eyes and imagine your worst nightmare coming true. No matter what your fears, one of the haunt mazes is surely designed to touch upon it.
They'll take whatever it is that you're afraid of, whether it's spiders or clowns or werewolves or vampires. They'll go and they'll take that and they'll quantify it.
My first maze was Lair of the Vampire. And we're walking through the hallways, and a very attractive bride walks up on one side, and then another very attractive bride walks up on the other. I'm 13 years old. I think I'm God's gift. She says, "Come with us." And then she hissed at me, and I about peed myself.
The clown maze was bright, it was weird, it was off the wall, it was pretty much just over the top. A lot of people have a general fear of clowns to begin with, and the designers played on that. So everything that people hate about clowns is what they pumped up.
Every single maze, I think, contributes, and you have different experiences in every one of those mazes. And I've been scared in every maze. I don't think there's necessarily one particular scare that sticks out in my mind, but I've definitely had some amazing moments.
The Halloween Haunt mazes have come a long way since the 10 chilling chambers in 1975. Each year, Knott strives to come up with new and innovative ways to scare their guests. With a dedicated design team constantly dreaming up new nightmares, the mazes will continue to evolve and maintain the high standards that were set so long ago. Before the sun sets and the fog machines are cranked up, a transformation begins to take place backstage. Specialized prosthetics are glued to the faces of dedicated talent. Makeup is applied to create the terrifying visions you'll find lurking in the dark, and wardrobe is donned to complete the final touch. The responsibility of preparing the Halloween Haunt monsters each night is in the hands of an extremely talented makeup and wardrobe department. A gentleman by the name of Gene Witham established the makeup department for the very first Halloween Haunt. And the groundwork he laid back then has carried over and blossomed into an amazing display of makeup wizardry. The amazing makeup work Gene Witham did the first year set the bar very high. The challenge to maintain such a high level of quality in the coming years was placed in the very capable hands of a gentleman named Abel Zaballos.
At that time I was working on my master's degree at Cal State Fullerton, and I was also teaching the makeup class as part of my graduate studies. The Halloween Haunt was coming up, and it probably was the second year of the haunt. And because I was teaching makeup and my friends knew that, they suggested that I help with the makeup. And Jim was there that year. I met him. We did a few of the three-dimensional makeups, actually maybe 2, 3 that had prosthetic, and then a couple of them that were face painting. One of them was Dracula. And then the rest, I kind of supervised the rest of the employees making themselves up, very simply, black and white, maybe 40, 50 employees. And so that was my first year. That's how I started.
Each year as the haunt grew, the demand for more specialized prosthetics grew as well.
We had a basis already, so we had certain characters, and the ones that come to mind was Dracula. We had a Frankenstein, we had a Bride of Frankenstein, we had a couple of just monsters that had three-dimensional makeup. So of course we kept the Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein and the Dracula, and then we started adding things as needed. Somebody will come up with a suggestion of maybe having a wolf woman or having a wolf man. So actually, I think we started with the Wolfman first, and then I came up with some prosthetics that we made at Cal State Fullerton. Actually, I was teaching the prosthetic course at that time. And of course, we added a few things that 1975, when Jim was gone already, and that tradition just continued. We'll always use some of the basic things that we had the previous year, and we'll change accordingly.
Since the time investment of prosthetic makeup was substantial, Abel wanted to make sure the makeup was going to be showcased properly.
Any of these special makeups for mazes were always an issue from the beginning, from the very first time. And we had some mazes that had very elaborate makeup. And these mazes always told a story. They always had a theme. I remember one time we had Jack the Ripper theme on the maze. And somebody will think we need a person that has no face, for example. So then on things like that, then we'll make the prosthetics. I'll either will make the prosthetic or have, again, some of the makeup artists that actually were my students make that prosthetic and then use it. This happened maybe 2-3 years where we worked really hard trying to get some of these special makeups and makeup looks. And by the time the event will open, you know, you will go through the mazes and these people will not be lit properly. So at the beginning, we had most of the special prosthetic makeup on those mazes, and slowly I just said, let's not, unless we're gonna plan to really showcase one of these makeups, and we're gonna plan, you know, definite lighting. So that took a few years to kind of coordinate that whatever you do for these mazes, it's either fast, quick, if they're not gonna be lit, or they have to showcase the makeup itself.
In the early years, prosthetics were used on only a few select actors, and the ones that received it felt very honored.
I worked the hunt for 3 years. The first year that I worked, I was in a makeup chair. They applied makeup to me, which was kind of a neat thing because not too many people got makeup back then. All I had was a crooked nose. I had an appliance that was on the side of my face that built it out so there were huge rips in it. And I had a brow fixture that came out like this. They were all prosthetic pieces. We thought it was really neat at the time. And so I was a ghost town ghoul. And basically they just dressed me up like a cowboy and put all this makeup on me. I had kind of longer hair, it was the 70s, and so that was all kind of frayed out. And that was about it.
Coming up with new prosthetic pieces, maybe on a new talent. Suddenly, if this person was a really good actor and liked the mask, let's go to the pigs. You know, the pigs became famous because we had this talent that suddenly just embraced that idea to have these very disturbing, bloody, horrible-looking pigs, and they used it so well that suddenly they make it happen. It wasn't the makeup. It was the talent. It was always the talent that made these characters happen.
In order for the department to run smoothly, Abel had to rely on his makeup artists to be creative and perform their duties with minimal supervision.
Initiative was a very important thing because when you have these numbers, you can be so precise to say, well, just do exactly this. Sometimes it worked better if you knew that that person could take some initiative and come up with something better than I can dream of. So that will be one thing that I will look into the people that I will ask to do the hunt. The obvious person to follow will be Mel Smith, who also was there. I hired Mel as soon as she finished the beginning makeup class, and then she was there, my right hand, all the time. She ran the foam latex pieces, she helped me organize the event, and then she was in charge of Cloud 9, which is where we did the bulk of the makeup, the modeling with paint makeup, and now it's where we do the airbrushing.
My background was acting, and I had to take a class when I was going through bachelor's and master's of makeup, theatrical makeup, and the man who taught me the class, Abel Zabayos, started Haunt. And I enjoyed the class so much, I kept taking more classes and I became his assistant. And I still was an acting major. In fact, I got my master's in acting. And then after I was done with school, I worked basically here at Haunt and did other jobs and makeup.
Abel always instilled confidence in his students and makeup artists. Each person that took his class or worked for him found it easy to develop their own unique style.
He's fantastic with makeup. He started out basically in architecture. And he created his own master's degree at Cal State Fullerton so that he could get a master's in makeup. But he's turned out some amazing artists. He really invokes a feeling of imagination as far as a makeup artist goes, as far as your talent goes. He never is a negative force. He's very positive in everything that you do. He wants you to create your own style, but he wants to teach you all the basics so you know exactly how to get to that style, and cleanly and quality.
Don't reinvent this wheel because this is done. We know what we're doing. This is the way. Make it better, and I think Mel made it better.
After many years of working at the haunt, it was time for Abel to move on and turn the responsibility of the makeup department over to his well-trained protégés.
Every year, doing the haunt became harder and harder for me because it was just physically demanding. So throughout the years, I had Scott Cleach always being my right hand and being in charge, and then he worked at Knott for 3 years full-time. And then I had Mel again, that again was my right hand, Mel Smith, for many, many years.
Once he got a full-time job over at Cal State Fullerton, he handed basically the whole thing over to me and said, go for it. I was petrified because before this, I had been doing the foaming and the sculpting and getting Cloud 9 ready. And once Abel and Scott Cleach also said bye, it was me having to do both crews and then get all the PR together, and it was harrowing the first year. It was a bit frightening because it's such a big thing. I mean, you think about haunt and makeup, and we're the only place that I know of that hires as many makeup artists as we do for one fell swoop for the whole month of October. It was quite daunting, to say the least.
I left, and I think they made it better. And I wasn't surprised. And, if I see things are actually running better, then I will say so. And that's what happened. Oh, yeah, they all lived up to my expectations.
Melanie Smith took her talents and what she had learned from Abel to new heights. The need for more prosthetics continued to increase each year. It was now Mel's responsibility to find additional makeup artists to keep up with the demand.
I have been lucky enough to know Stephen McCallum over at Mudd, the makeup designery. And I also know Abel. And each one of them, I hire a lot of my makeup artists through them. They're quality makeup artists. They're not going to give me anybody who doesn't represent what they do at their best. A lot of it is just trusting when I am sent. And knowing that these makeup artists in the field, usually of makeup, you have to go by script. You're dictated by the script. Here, it's your imagination. And I have to trust them to use their imagination so that they can play. And with the makeup artists, one thing I've got to make always sure of is that they feel that they're important and that I appreciate them, I respect them. And if I do that, then it starts to fall into place with everyone else. And I do. I really feel like once I've hired a makeup artist and they've done an excellent job and they get along with the other people, they are part of the family. And it's a big family. And each year I will, first off the bat, they get called.
She wants the job done. She wants the job done well. And I have a lot of respect for her because she likes everything run smooth and by the book, and she lets us get creative, and I have a lot of respect for Melanie.
It's challenging. I like a challenge. And we can develop these makeups. Broaden your horizons. They can be one color one night, another color another night. There's flexibility, and you can play in the art.
Melanie's incredible talent for sculpting made for some very original and creative designs.
A lot of times I'll watch these monsters who've been around for years, and when they finally get into a prosthetic instead of a mask, you kind of know all their quirks and everything. And when you study them over the years and all of a sudden they finally get a prosthetic, the prosthetic kind of almost sculpts itself. It's that easy. It's all there. And I don't ever, I do it, as they say, bass-ackwards. I put the good old clay on the face, and whatever these puppies want to do, they do.
The prosthetics found at the Halloween Haunt are unique to the event and cannot be found anywhere else. Every year, new designs are created and introduced.
I do like the dragon's paw with the Celtic design for the bagpiper. He plays the bagpipes, and he's Scottish, and he's got red hair, and he's bald, and it worked out beautifully because being a bagpiper, he needs the expansion of his cheeks and around the throat area so he could not have anything. And I thought, you know, it would be really kind of cool to put like a Scottish dragon's paw on on his forehead. So I thought, let's just go for it. Imagination, it just came, you know. It's there. You'd be surprised what I come up with sometimes, I'll tell you.
The talent of the makeup department is vital to the success of the Halloween haunt. The makeup artists are very dedicated to their craft, realizing that what they create helps make the event what it is.
Every makeup artist has a different style, and that's really what haunt's all about. It's everybody being an individual and having their own style, and that's what makes it.
I love to watch the monsters work and watch their interaction with the patrons, the people that come in, and you know, see what works. The reactions, I think, are what makes it worthwhile. The creativity is great, but it's great to see that it works.
It's pretty fun, actually. I get a kick out of it, because usually sometimes I'd walk through a ghost town and I'd see, you know, the Green Goblin come in and he'd scare me. So that's pretty bad when your own monster scares you.
Getting the talent made up and out into their designated areas each night is no small feat. Everyone pulls together and manages to beat the clock getting the job done.
It's great work, it's fun, but it's really tough. You've got a deadline that doesn't flinch and have to take everything in stride.
It's pretty amazing how it all comes together. I'm still amazed by it. I mean, after 5 years, I'm totally blown away that we are able to pull off everything that we do in just those couple of hours for that night.
Gosh, it's absolute mayhem. From just getting ready for haunt.
There really isn't much of a safety net. You need to get your work done. You need to get your people out there.
The makeup artists found at the Halloween haunt are the best. Some have even gone on to win Academy Awards for their abilities in the makeup field. However, with a tight deadline to adhere to and a heavy workload, the artists pool their talents and work together as one big happy family.
It was fun. And then it's not only that, but it's coming back and then seeing these people that you had so much fun and you spent such great time the year before, you see them again and it became a family.
Relationships born out of crisis situations, they say they never last. But you know, there's a certain bond that you automatically are just granted when you work haunt. And you know, mind you, haunt is not a crisis situation, but it's one of those that it's fast, it happens only in a very short month, you only have so much time, you have to get along or you have to get on. That's just all there is to it.
And it's really hard work, but it's fun. It's play. But when you're done playing, whew, you're beat, but it's great fun.
I would not be here as long as I have been here unless it was for the people at Knott's. Their concept of family is so intense. It's wonderful, and that has just overflowed into my group. They care about what they do. They care about the people, and they care about the product.
Incredible memories, fun times. Always, always. A lot of laughs, a lot of good times, and staying up until 3 in the morning, having to remove this makeup. That's what it was, all the time. Great times.
Every October, Knott's Berry Farm transforms into its alter ego, the Halloween haunt. Just as they always do, the lights mysteriously fade to black, and a strange fog drifts onto the streets and into the chilly night air. The stage is being set to terrorize the brave souls who dare to enter through the main gates. It's also time to cue the talent to take their places among the rides, streets, and mazes. Over 1,000 creatures of the night crawl out of their coffins, graves, and other darkened areas to roam the haunt for the entire month. Even in the very beginning, the talent found at the Halloween haunt was the best. And just as the haunt has grown each year, so has the haunt family. Every year, a special group of people come together to make this legendary event #1. Without question, the primary attraction of the Halloween haunt are the monsters. Without them, the mazes, scare zones, and rides wouldn't have the same impact. The job of a haunt monster goes far beyond a person wearing a mask. The people that dedicate their time to work this event take the job of scaring very seriously.
Our talent is not only streets, but mazes too, are superb. That's why people come back. That's why my rehire event is, almost 98% rehires. It's incredible. You have a real core group of people that are very dedicated, that really want to make this thing work. And you'll ask them, you'll probably interview all these guys. They're going to tell you, I'm not here for the money. I'm not here for the money. I'm here because it's haunt. And I tip my hat off to all these people because the talent is what makes Halloween haunt.
Being a monster out there is a tough job. You'll come out soaking wet. You'll be exhausted physically and mentally. You work it really hard. But haunt is passion. That's what it's about, honestly. And this is where it's at. At least for me. I get my energy to fire up for going out there tonight, from these folks. Because these folks are the ones that live it, they love it, and they get into it. And they stay in touch all year. But you'll notice that there'll be such an enthusiasm coming out of here, and you can almost feel it in the air as it just grows.
The monsters, though we hire them, and we started the street talent program, they have really made it their own. We guide them, and we have them in our little box that we need to keep them in, and in order to keep our guests and them safe. But they've created what we have here, so they take a lot of pride in it. And even some monsters have thought twice about coming back, but it gets down to the nitty-gritty and they say, no, I gotta come back, because they take pride in what they do. They're awesome.
I couldn't handle the day in and day out that those guys go through. They really are the unsung heroes.
Even though there wasn't as many rules when I began, because it was just kind of starting out, we knew enough to respect people. When people finally had enough, we respected that. And what I found about the street monsters today is there's that same classy attitude. You can tell that these people aren't amateurs. The Halloween haunt street monsters are pros. They come, they get their scare, and they move on.
The characters have a lot of passion and a lot of drive that I have never seen anywhere else. These people are on fire, and they are what make the Halloween haunt #1.
Every summer, it's time again to recruit the monsters for the coming season. Even the people who worked the Halloween haunt before have to go through what is known as rehire. In the old days, the process of hiring was a bit more complicated. Would-be monsters had to audition their talents, and for a short period of time actually had to attend a monster college.
That was fun. That was a start of bringing talent together and having us all in one room and either mask or makeup and doing the demonstration. It seems like everybody remembers Monster College. I think that was one of the best PR events that we did. We had the ceremony and the music, and then we threw the caps up in the air, and everyone asks about Monster College, and it was a fun day. In the years past, we do auditions. We did auditions.
Then the street monsters we kept increasing the numbers, but I noticed that there was a problem with our street monsters, because now we were hiring from the outside, and we'd hire college people, and they would just come in and we would just sign them up to be a street monster. And for a year I noticed that a few of them were laying back and not being aggressive. So I thought to myself, boy, we're gonna have to have an audition. So I kept thinking about it, and I thought, I've got it. We'll do an impromptu type audition. I will get them on stage, and I will tell them just to do the strangest things you could think of. Now, a lot of them will say, oh, Jess, not for me, and walk away. And that's good. We want them to walk away. And some of them will just make a complete idiot out of themselves. And these are the people that we kept.
We would meet at the Independence Hall, and we would do a cattle call, and we would just start. Everybody had to. This is before rehire was invented. Everybody had to fight for their position that they had the years past. Then the idea was, why do we have to go through these auditions when we know these guys want these positions? Let's bring them back. Let's put them in those positions because we know they're going to do it. Whatever we don't fill, then we'll audition. And right now what we basically do is we'll rehire all the people back that have given us great service and are continually wanting to come back. Whatever open positions we have, then I attend the Maze rehire events. The Maze rehire events are those who have put in 5 years or more. And this year I got some folks that have been 10, 15 years that have been working in a maze and said, I want out, I want to go to streets. We interview them, we talk to them, and we bring them over.
To work as a haunt monster takes a great deal of energy and a considerable investment of time. For the month of October, these people have to basically give up their regular lives to work the event. It can be a difficult job, but the consensus is it's the best time anyone can have.
It was the best job I ever had, I think, working at Knott's Berry Farm. It was the most fun job I ever had.
Would you like to be a monster? Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be a monster.
Oh, we had a good time. And, you know, you'd go back for your break, back at the theater, and you'd stand around and you'd talk to people about what did you do, or, you know, where were you at, or did you see so-and-so?
I was a monster in a movie, but I was living it. And that's why every night when I would get off work, I remember thinking, how many more hours till I have to show back up here again? This is great. You know, I had so much fun every day, I couldn't wait to get back to work.
I had a part in Halloween Haunt, and I thought that is so cool. It's a whole lot of fun. It's a way of going out and doing something that I can't do the rest of the year. If I tried to do something like that as an adult, people would think I was crazy if I didn't have Halloween Haunt to do it in. I get to do it the entire month now. So it's really a lot of fun. I really do look forward to it every year.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Even if I was not paid to be at Knott, I would volunteer my time. I would have done it back then, I will do it today.
It's just a great feeling to work haunt, and I wouldn't give it up for anything.
When you go out there and you do something, whether you scare somebody or you make them laugh, whatever it is, it's a huge release. No matter what you do, no matter what's going on in the rest of the world in your life, that moment feels so good, you want to do it again and again. And I mean, I guess you could say it's addictive, but if that's an addiction, I'm not going to be looking for a rehab center. So
I wouldn't trade being a monster for anything in the world.
Because it was fun. I mean, I had more fun doing haunt than almost anything else.
That's the best. Nothing better. It's the only sane addiction out there. But it's still insane. It just gets you.
You get to do almost anything you like as long as you're not offensive and not physically dangerous. So it's sort of like they're paying you money to act like a total loon. Plus the fact they don't make you shave.
If you can get somebody scared enough that they can fall on the floor, that's the greatest feeling in the world.
If I had one job that I could do my entire life, this would be it.
Yeah, it really takes a toll on your body, but it's a rush. It really is.
I would do this year-round if I could.
It's indescribable, just the reaction, the feedback, just doing this thing called haunt.
One of the best forms of entertainment is being scared in a controlled environment. As long as you know you won't actually get hurt in the process, the adrenaline rush of being frightened can be great fun. There's no better place in the world than the Halloween Haunt to experience this adrenaline rush. And the haunt monsters just love to make that happen.
I think people like that thrill, being scared. They know that October is the month of Halloween, a little fright, you know, horror movies. People love horror movies. People like that adrenaline rush of being scared.
It really is a lot of fun. I get a big kick out of scaring people that enjoy being scared and laugh when they get scared. That to me is the most fun of haunt.
You are that creepy guy that gives people nightmares, and they're coming to see you, so.
Every night is a great scare.
And to the people I've scared, I hope you had a good time, because I had a great time scaring you.
It's usually the men, though, that sometimes, I mean, they fall on the ground, they cry, they run, they scream.
You ever get scared?
Oh yeah.
What scares you?
The bride.
Why is she scary?
She's a pretty scary lady.
What is it?
That's the kind of reaction I'm really looking for.
You don't know where that monster is. You don't know where that scare's coming from. After I've got you, I hope you're going to therapy. And I hope it's going to cost a lot.
You don't know what's around the next corner. You don't know what to expect. You never know. That's the excitement about it.
You make them go where you want them to go. They run, you follow. I own you when you come into my room.
Nobody's safe. There's no way you can't be safe.
Monsters galore. If you can't handle it, don't go. If you enjoy being scared, if you enjoy your heart pounding hard, tears running out of your eyes, then go.
Each new season, the Halloween Haunt gains new monsters and loses others. But for a core group of veterans that have worked the event for many years, there doesn't seem to be an end in sight anytime soon.
Well, let's see, the life expectancy of a female in this country is what, 80-something? I don't know, maybe I'll be doing it that long, maybe I won't. I don't know, I don't see an end. When I first started doing the haunt, I thought, oh, maybe I'll do this a few years, then I won't do it anymore, but now it's become something that I don't think I will stop. I think maybe they'll have to bury me in the costume, I don't know.
How long am I going to do this? I don't know. You know, once I hit my silver anniversary, I'll start thinking about it again. As long as I'm physically fit, I'll be doing it.
As long as I still can. I can't imagine not doing it. Technically, I'm probably 300 or 400 years old as the Bride of Dracula and still going strong. So as long as I could still do it and not get injured and balance the family life at home. I have 5 children, so I'm a mom and I work at the park, and that all works together and it doesn't outweigh one or the other, then I'll continue.
I know my first year I did it because it was something that looked fun and I wanted to do it. But I'd never intended to come back a second year. The second year I came back, I just kind of came back to see who was going to come back. And I did it again. And then after a while, it just was a blur. It's been one long year. 13 years, 10 years, 100 years. It's really hard to quantify the time span that has happened.
And every year you got more fun because the scares got bigger, the techniques got better, you know, the costumes and the makeup got better. Everything around Haunt just grew and grew and grew and grew. It's like, you know, I got to go back because I got to see if I can do better than I did last year.
Working a special event such as the Haunt, it's only natural for veterans and rookies alike to form a family bond that can last a lifetime.
The friendships and the bonds at Haunt are very, very strong. It's a lot to go through, the makeup process, the abuse on our bodies, the late nights. So you develop a level of friendship that's different than any other work experience I've had. And I think those are what make Haunt the absolute best.
You develop friendships with people who return, and you continue those through the years out of makeup and out of the Knott setting. That community that is the monsters of Scary Farm, the makeup artists, the techs. We all know what a big event it is, and we all take care of each other to make it through, because it's a very, very hard event to work. Long hours and a lot of sweat and pain goes into it, but it's all to make it successful.
The family aspect of Haunt is what keeps the monsters coming back year after year. If I didn't enjoy the people I work with, I certainly wouldn't enjoy the job that much, and then I wouldn't keep coming back. We have people that have been here for 20 years and they come back because it's a family.
It feels good to know, really good to know, that no matter where I am on the streets, whether I'm playing around here or if I've zipped off over to there, I know they're watching my back. You know, the same way a big brother or big sister would watch your back. It's definitely family.
I really like working with people, and it's working with the guests and working with the new friends and family that you meet while you're at the Haunt.
They are my family. I love everybody that I work with. We're all so close. Everyone is so special.
I think next to my own family, I'll never be closer to anybody than the people that I met through Halloween Haunt.
All of us, and we don't do it by ourselves. It's the mazes, it's the town, it's the blackouts, it's the ghost town, it's Gauntlet, it's Swamp, it's all of us. It's Haunt. It's all of us together. And we can't do it without each other.
Behind the mask and beyond the scare, the monsters share a common goal: to uphold the integrity of Knott's Berry Farm and continue the traditions set by those who came before them. Imagine you're walking through the darkened streets of the Halloween haunt, when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, something moves quickly along the ground, very close to your feet, creating a terrifying sound. And before you have time to finish screaming and catch your breath, the sound fades into the distance, and whatever it was is gone. It's a signature scare tactic called sliding, and the Halloween haunt monsters have taken their scares to a whole new level with this technique. The origins of sliding can be traced back to the early days of the haunt, when talent used to literally throw themselves on the ground to achieve the ultimate scare. Sliding techniques and the equipment used have evolved over the years, and now it is truly an event to see.
Let's go.
Sliding is one of the single best scare tactics found at the Halloween haunt. It was developed there many years ago and has been painstakingly perfected to where it is today. What exactly is sliding? It's a technique that was born as the result of one of the monsters deciding to throw themselves on the ground to see what kind of scare it would produce. Well, the result was a success, and the rest is history.
Halloween haunt sliders are probably the greatest scare tactic that's out there. It's very unique, and it's something that's unique to Halloween haunt. You'll see it in other places, but if I'm not mistaken, it was developed at Knott's Halloween haunt. There's no other scare tactic like it.
Obviously, a big part of scaring people, a lot of people have adapted their own versions of different things, but the biggest scare tactic used is sliding at the guests.
Basically what a slider does, it's another form of a scare tactic to generally entertain the guests. What most of the guys do is they hide in corners, in dark corners, and wait for the proper guest to come by and just run and slide across the ground on their knees and hopefully get a scare out of them.
They had nothing like sliding in my day. That was one of the new elements that I came back and I thought, wow, that is very cool. We were coming around the stable where that windmill is. There's a ramp there, must be for wheelchair access, but it's a bunch of slats that go up on this long ramp. And just as we came around this corner, this guy comes flying down, hits his knees, and hits each of those slabs all the way down. And I mean, it was so effective. Both of us, oh! And then the second reaction was, cool.
Haunt invented sliding. It's kind of an interesting story on how sliding came about, but they're the ones who invented it. And now you can go to places in Florida that use sliding, and I think that's pretty special.
The early technique of sliding was rather crude and potentially harmful to one's body. Even with that in mind, the monsters continued to throw themselves on the ground to make sure the guests were getting the scares they came for.
When I first started, a lot of people were still doing what you call a body slide. They'd wear volleyball knee pads, and basically what they do, they'd just throw themselves on the ground and slide about 3 feet. Then there was another guy that came out that started out in Camp Snoopy when it was in the experimental stages. His character's name is Slider, and he actually got sliding to where it is today with the knee pads, the gloves, the special shoes that we use, all that stuff.
Some of the guys I'd seen were doing a similar slide. It was like a baseball slide where they would have their knees with like a volleyball knee pad and thick, this cheesecloth stuff wrapped really thick around it. And then they would just sort of dive on the ground like a belly flop, sort of. Or like a Pete Rose slide, or like a regular baseball slide kind of a thing. So one year I thought, well, I'm gonna try that. And out there, and it was like, just hit the ground and went, just fell on my face, tore the gloves, tore my jeans. I was like, I don't want to play this game. So that was my very first slide, and it was like one for that whole hunt. I tried one and I about broke myself, so I said, this has got to be a better way.
Although sliding was now safer for the monsters to perform, guest safety was still a major priority.
Knowing that what I had worked really well, I didn't want to see other guys do something that they would hurt themselves. And something like that I just like to share. And I really want to make sure everybody else was safe, that the idea that they were using wasn't going to hurt themselves as well as somebody else.
Safety starts before the slide even happens. If you don't have a line of sight, if you don't know what's on the other side of somebody, you don't even slide. That was probably my main concern even before I started sliding, is how do I stop? How do I get out of the way if somebody jumps in front of me? And that all happens, like I said, before the slide, before getting into it.
A lot of that just comes with practice and experience. You got to know your limitations, you know, how far you can go. Now, if you're going at a certain speed, when you can stop, when you can't stop. And I mean, that's why we're out here practicing. And that's, you know, on being out there for so many years, you just know what you can do and what you can't do.
We now have what we call, it's just like a driver's test. We have a slider certification program, so to speak. We even have little cards for them. And basically is you have to go out and you have to prove yourself. You have to take a test, which is stopping, starting, moving around. And if you fail that test, we're going to give you another chance. If you fail that, then you're going to take a year off. Okay? And since we've started that program, our injury rate and our both to guest, property, and employee have just dropped dramatically.
Sliding on your hands and knees in the dark, wearing a mask or prosthetic, can be difficult to say the least. It takes precision, coordination, and a great deal of practice.
The more you slide in the off season, the easier it's going to be for you when hunt comes around. In the off season, I do a lot of different things. I mean, besides working, I do a lot of swimming. I do weights. I run. In the wintertime, I do a lot of snowboarding, so that helps for the strength on the legs. The biggest thing, though, is probably running to build your endurance.
You need to really be in shape. Your legs, your entire body needs to just be, you know, physically fit. And then you also have to have a quick mind. You know, you have to be able to tell when to stop, how far you need to slide, if a slide's even safe enough to do. You know, it's all those aspects put together. And if you don't have it, you know, you shouldn't even try.
As you get older, and unfortunately some of us are getting older, your body tends to not be able to handle as much as it used to. So I like to start my training earlier in the year. Each year I start going to the gym, just doing the regular weights and treadmill routine. Every month I boost it up a little bit. And another thing that I do is yoga. Yoga's been really good for me the last couple years as far as helping me stretch and getting me more limber. Do a lot more out there on the streets.
The sole purpose of sliding used to be nothing more than a scare tactic. However, it's much more than that today. Some of the sliders have taken their skills to new levels by adding tricks and stunts to their routines.
Sliding as a scare tactic is pretty much in and out. You run up, you see your group, hit the ground, get up, get out. Sliding as a performance, people have developed things like jumps and spins and all this kind of stuff, which you can't put into a crowd, because the minute you're backwards to the crowd, you don't know what's going on behind you. You're going to nail somebody, or you're going to slide into a wall or a post or something. So in the pit in front of the hanging show, we used to do a little sliding demonstration. We would put a bunch of guys in a row and try and jump over them, or we would put, everybody would stand like this and we'd go between their legs, or you know, like doing spins or little flips or whatever. People have come up with all these different ideas, great ones too. The performance part of it, you know your surroundings. You know, I'm this much room, it's all open, there's no guests, there's no walking, so now I'm gonna do something wacky.
Jumping backwards, jumping sideways, jumping while spinning. A lot of it has to do with jumping, trying to balance just on your knees without your feet or your hands. Creating new moves, it's all about being creative to try and make it a sport.
We do monster jumping, monster limbo. We do a thing called the tunnel where all the monsters line up and somebody slides through the tunnel. And we also do just a trick session where everybody does their own thing. There was a big thing for a while where we would see how far we could jump. We'd have all the monsters in the pit lay down side by side, and we'd just see who could jump the most.
The techniques continue to get better, and in the years to come, one can only imagine how sliding will evolve. With more people learning to do it and more sophisticated equipment, the possibilities are endless.
I mean, if you look at when it started, there was other guys doing sort of what I was doing. I mean, they just had real thick pads on their elbows, nothing plastic or hard, and they were just sort of doing a baseball Pete Rose kind of a slide thing, but it was similar. It was still a scare tactic, like diving in and scaring. And then I came along and put all this metal and junk on my body and then sped up the process, so it made it a faster thing. But who knows? I mean, there's guys that every year I see something. Maybe they'll come up with these little hover discs you put on your knees, and you just, actually don't even make noise as you go across. I don't know. There's always something. It'll change.
I'd like to see it become some sort of an extreme sport. It'd be nice if we can figure out some way to get enough speed and put it in a half pipe. That would be real nice.
Who would have ever thought that a stage show starring Larry Vincent as Seymour, Master of the Macabre, would launch one of the biggest Halloween events in the world? Well, ever since that first production in 1973, the live stage shows found at the Halloween Haunt never fail to entertain and amaze. These well-produced shows provide plenty of comic relief, incredible stunts, and specially choreographed dance numbers. So when you feel you can't scream anymore, or the terror is just too intense, take a break and enjoy one of the many great shows at the Halloween Haunt. The shows found at the Halloween Haunt are as varied as the monsters themselves. Everything from the bizarre to the ludicrous can be found for your entertainment pleasure. The large theater, now known as the Charles M. Schulz Theater, houses the headliners for the Halloween Haunt. From Seymour to Ed Alonzo, the show has always featured a variety of talent. Months of preparation and hard work go into the production, making it one of the biggest and best shows of the event.
Came in here basically and came in with a treatment of okay, we'll start with a dance number and then we'll do this magic and then this comedy and then we'll do another dance number. And the whole team at Knott's Berry Farm really made it all come together. So it's not really fair to say that I wrote the whole show. It's a collaboration of all the talented people out here at the park and some friends that I brought in to help sort of spice up what I do.
We have this great team that we pulled together and they sit down and they just toss ideas back and forth and you know, what about? And then I've got a wonderful guy in the studio named Rob Perez who takes these ideas, lays down the soundtrack, we record all the voices, and puts together a really nice show.
We start talking Halloween right after Christmas. Yeah, so we're like, oh, Christmas, Happy New Year. Okay, now at Halloween this year, what we need to do is I'm seeing pumpkins and it's kind of weird, you know, it's cold outside and you're talking Halloween. We start conceptualizing it the first of the year.
Basically, I worked on the show almost the entire year, and even for the 3.5 months that I was at Knott's other park in Minneapolis called Valley Fair, I would sit and write and try and come up with the ins and outs of trying to make the show smooth on paper. And so we'd even have these meetings where the whole crew was here at a big boardroom and I'd be on speakerphone, and I understand that a lot of the time they just unplugged it.
Keeping up with current times and trends, the show continues to push the envelope with high-tech sound and lighting, sophisticated dance numbers, and a multitude of talented performers.
I started to talk to Charles Bradshaw about the possibility of one day I could do real good in that big theater, and of course we never knew if it was ever going to happen. But he was watching me closely and came into a good position to where it was time to try something fresh and new in here, and he's been fired because of it now. No, of course not. It's gone over well, and I think the fans like it that come to the Halloween Haunt. I'm having a blast. The whole room is just a big ball of energy. We have a lot of fun in here.
This is a little more risque. It's a little more cutting edge. The production numbers are up to date, real hot numbers. The dancers are hired for their talents and some really strong dancers and singers. Costumes a little more risque. Choreography a little more risque. So the singing and dancing is just really hot stuff.
We have a lot of return customers, if you will, return audience, that they want to come and see what we're going to do each year. And it becomes kind of problematic because, okay, what are we going to do this year that's going to be new? So it's a challenge, but I like it because then it doesn't become repetitive for us. Ed has a history of performing at Knott's Scary Farm. He has an audience, following that we believe will come to see Ed quite a bit. And there are people who come to see the production values of the shows, to see what we can create there, yeah. And there are a lot of returnees.
It's a lot of fun. I think it's the kind of show that is fantastic for everyone. We have, kids that come in and love what the show has to offer, and we get some of the oldsters that come in, like my mom comes in here and loves it, and then all the teenagers just think it's a hoot, because it's a wacky show. It's crazy. I think it's going to be expensive now. I'm going to have to really rake the price up. No, I'm having fun, so who knows? It's a good show, it's a fun show, and even if I'm not part of it, I'm going to come back and see it because I'm a big Haunt fan, that's for sure. And scene! What the hell is this thing?
Brothers and sisters, good people of Calico, are you ready for a hanging?
Another show the Halloween Haunt is famous for is The Hanging in Calico Square. In the early years, the show was patterned after its name, consisting of an old-fashioned witch hanging, complete with gallows, a hangman, and of course the witch.
The great history of the show goes back to when we, early in the years of Knott's, was that we hung a witch. We would march through the town with a witch on a cart, and all of the monsters would follow behind, take her up to the gallows and hang a witch. Later we got a little fancy and put pyro with it, and she would disappear and then reappear up on a storefront.
It was quite different than the hanging they have now, but it worked real well. We started with a stuntman and just hung a regular person at midnight. On the year after that, we hung a witch. And we would bring her up in a procession through the town in a two-wheel cart. We had a drummer at the lead of it with a snare drum beating out a drum beat. And we would come up to the gallows and march the person up the gallows. And it would be a girl, because it's a witch. And she would proclaim her innocence.
I was the guy that would first of all lead the witch up to the gallows, go through the crowd. Once we got up there, it was my job to put the noose over her neck and to hook in the safety harness.
And at that point, she proclaimed that she is the witch, and she'll be back and get all of you.
What you're about to do to me, you shall all pay.
That show drew like more people than you could imagine in the Calico Square, and they were all yelling, "Hanger, hanger," you know, and you get them all riled up. But then when that explosion goes, it's just dead silence. The whole crowd's dead silence, and they see the bird fly away, and the smoke filters out of the picture, and it's like real eerie. And the people clap because they don't really know what to do, and they start dispersing. It's a real dramatic ending to a show.
That early hanging show was very successful for many years, but the time had come to make some changes and step up the production, creating a multimedia extravaganza. The premise for this new hanging show was to poke fun at current news topics of the day and make mockery of pulp culture icons.
Tom Clough was one of the early creators in the 90s of bringing in pop culture icons. No one goes without a little lampooning during this event, and it's fun. We take the best movies and spoof those, so it's that type of thing. So we just have fun with whatever happened in pop culture.
So it sort of evolved into this mishmash of pop culture, and it used to be that they would introduce these characters and they would fight and they'd disappear and then they'd come back and then they'd get killed and then they'd get thrown off and that was it. Now a character shows up, within 3 seconds they're thrown off the stage, that actor is running around putting on another costume and coming back out within 6 seconds as another character. It's so fast paced. In a 20-minute show with 14 actors, we have between 60 and 100 characters come out. That's fast-paced. So the main thing that has changed is the pacing.
I've seen the show grown. It's fully evolved from how they used to do it. My first hanging was probably one of the first years that the whole show was dedicated to a little bit of comedy and satire. The man who was directing it in those days, or who took over the directing, tried a few little tricks with some pop icons, and usually it was just one. The whole show had a dark, serious tone through the whole thing, and then the payoff at the end was some pop icon would just pop up and there would be some shtick, and it just turned the whole thing around. But even at that, the first 2 or 3 that he did of those were still short 10-minute things. So my first year of putting the hanging together was probably the first year that it became a almost 20-minute show, and we had several characters and it had a little more variety.
And before this evening's over, I guarantee something around here is going to hang.
The challenge to keep the show current and fresh each year is placed in the hands of 3 very talented writers. Their job is to keep a close eye on what's happening in the world of news and gossip, always looking for the next joke to add to the show.
The hanging script starts the day after Haunt ends. It starts in November of the year before, because the hanging is a topical show.
That's the beauty of this show. We can cut, put new things in. If something happened next week, then we'll leave it, we leave a parking space usually we can find to put, the newest thing in.
So what happens is that there's 3 of us that write it, and around middle of June, before Haunt, we get together with our notebooks, and our notebooks have every single pop culture event that happened that year. It's the greatest time. What it is, these 3 idiots get together for 2 months. We get together 4 nights a week and try to crack each other up with who can be more clever than the rest. And some nights we don't get anything done because we're stuck on one joke and we laugh our asses off for the entire night on this joke.
Stop it! What am I doing? I can't believe I've gotten sucked into all of this. Enough of the lame segues. Enough of the clever, so-called pop culture references.
From a writing standpoint, we like to think that there's nothing untouchable. We, take no prisoners, and that's one of the funnest things about it. Now, of course, being that it is a family park and that kind of thing, sometimes we don't get ultimate say in what gets to stay or not. But we, there are certain things that have hit the cutting room floor that we just go, but that was so funny,
The hanging is the weirdest show in the world because you have this huge momentum, then all of a sudden rehearsals start and you're done. And there's like a couple of days work here and there of tweaking a joke, adding a joke, taking a joke out, but it's the weirdest thing to just stop. And they start rehearsals and the show starts. And I don't know of any other show that goes from blank pages to finished production with 2 months of writing and 2 weeks of rehearsal. This is crazy. And if you've ever seen the show, you'll know it's fantastic, it's huge, it's a spectacle, and there's nothing better than standing out there and you just sort of curl your hands up hoping that the jokes are gonna work, right? And then all of a sudden people just go nuts. And it's the greatest feeling in the world, knowing that the audience is on the same wavelength that you were. That's the greatest. The only bad part is the texts tell me I'm not allowed to come to the show and laugh at my own jokes. But, you know, what are you gonna do?
No matter what happens in the world of news, good, bad, or indifferent, if there's a joke to be found in the context of it, it's sure to make its way to the stage in Calico Square. The hanging has been a staple of the Halloween Haunt since its inception and will remain a featured draw for years to come.
It started so small, and it's become a tradition, I'm sure, for many people when they come to haunt. People have come to expect certain things from the hanging, and I think now more so than ever, it's to see what hot topics they're gonna get this year, like, you know, who's gonna be focused on for the hanging this year, what celebrity, what events in our society.
This is always the one place I come back in October. Like I said, this started off being a little 6-day, two show a night performance. And it's sort of evolved itself. And it's kind of fun to come back once a year and say, okay, where are we now and what are we doing now? Fun to change with it and let it evolve.
Everyone comes back to see the hanging. People have seen it, they talk about it, they say, oh, you work for that show, it's really fun. We go to see the hanging, we go to see the Good Time Theater show, but everyone always comes to see the hanging.
Monsters, mazes, shows, and scare zones are what the Halloween Haunt is famous for. However, as you can see, it goes much deeper than that. It's an assembly of true professionals that join together once a year to create and preserve this one-of-a-kind event. The Halloween Haunt is many things to many people. For some, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. For others, a much-anticipated yearly tradition. But perhaps it's best described through the eyes of the people who live it.
The Halloween Haunt is not just an entertainment park event. I think it's a lot more than that, and I think the reason why it's more is because it has a soul that has been created by those employees that come back year after year.
When I come back and I take a look at what it's become today, I really feel like it's an honor that I have a small piece in perhaps shaping what it's finally turned into today. It's something that I'm very proud of.
To somebody who comes in to work haunt, it's an adrenaline rush. To somebody who's coming to visit haunt, it's an adrenaline rush because you're getting the crap scared out of you because you want to be there and you want to have that happen. You want to run away from the big scary man. You want to, you know, duck and hide from the woman who's wielding a knife at you. As a character, I'm sure that everybody agrees it is the adrenaline rush. You get to go and live out that aggression that you build up through the entire year.
The people just seem to love to come back because they know what to expect now. They want to bring their friends back with them. They want to watch the expression on their friends. The monsters are so sophisticated now, and there's so many of them, that it's a real happening. And that's what I think the main gist is in Halloween Haunt. It's something that if you don't go to Halloween Haunt, you're square. You're out of it. Everyone in Southern California knows about Halloween Haunt.
It's just a collection of some of the quirkiest people you will ever find on this planet. That's basically it. I mean, I think it's different for everybody. For a lot of guests, it's the most terrifying experience they will ever have. For the people that work there, it's sometimes the most endearing and sometimes the most frustrating and sometimes the funnest. It's a lot of things to a lot of people.
Halloween Haunt is a great experience and I recommend it to everybody. It's just one big monster amusement park. To work there is a privilege and an honor.
Halloween Haunt is the closest thing you can come to actually being thrown into a horror movie that you don't know the ending to.
Halloween Haunt is the greatest party you'll ever be invited to. There's nothing on earth like Halloween Haunt.
The biggest, and we've all heard this before, the biggest Halloween party in the world.
It's an experience. If you let yourself go and you let your imagination run wild, we will control you.
Halloween Haunt is something very special.
There is no comparison.
Halloween Haunt will be as big as the imaginations that created.
All of Haunt is tradition. I think the fact that we can do it is because of tradition. It's because of those that have come before and have laid out this wonderful blueprint for us. Everyone that adds to the Haunt adds their own little touches, and that just keeps growing.
It's #1. It's the best. I think the amount of dedication and the amount of talent that works there has a lot to do with it, because they're obviously enormously talented and they put their heart and soul into this, and it's something that they look forward to every year.
Knott's has been doing it for a lot of years, and there's a professionalism that really comes through, of experience there, that they know what they're doing. So if you want to have a good time, have it done right, Knott's is the place to go.
They want it to be an excellent product for the people to keep coming back. And there's something about Knott's at Halloween time in Ghost Town with all that fog that you're not going to get anywhere else. This is it, guys. This is the big kahuna.
As we've shown, Knott's Scary Farm's Halloween Haunt is much more than just screams and scares. It's a phenomenon that can never be duplicated. That small spark ignited back in 1973 has grown into an eternal flame that'll never be extinguished. And thanks to Bill, Gene, Gary, Abel, and the rest of the crew for pouring the foundation on which this astounding event has been built, the legacy of the haunt will live on forever too. So as fall turns to winter and the fog of the macabre dissipates, the veil once again falls on the Halloween haunt. Monsters quietly retreat to their dark worlds and wait patiently until they can once again terrorize the sacred grounds of the haunt. Thanks for joining us, and remember, it won't be long before the season is once again upon us, the season of screams.
Thank you. Yes, you are. Why are you shaking? Have fun.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Knott's Mystery Theater. Tonight we present the Halloween Hunt starring Wolfman Jack. The Shock and Rock Revue.
Frankensteins and you drugstore Draculas. Hallelujah, we gonna party here tonight. And if you want to party, I want to hear you say, oh yeah. I say if you want to move and groove, I want everybody to say right out. If you really want to get down, let me hear you howl. Spring out the grave digger for now. And listen, everybody, get on the floor. Let's dance. Put your hands over your head. Come on now, baby. Got to give yourself a chance. Yes. Woo. Of course, back in 1969, I was still in high school, you know. Yeah. Fun time, I'm telling you. I remember those days I used to have my whole bad body dipped in lukewarm clearacy.
Wolfman Jack. X-E-R-B.
We gonna have fun, make romance, take that last chance on a high school dance. Come on, everybody, let's get down. Oh, goodness gracious, would you please share some of that fine applause with Uncle John Herron, our conductor, and our Jack Band here, who's doing real good, and all our talented friends. Thank you very much. now. All right. Come on, let's hear it for PCPO.
Rebel friends, that this theater is obviously a rebel base.
Oh, yeah, you come up here and say that.
I've been waiting for you.
Does this look like the body of a terrified man now?
And I can see there is no one to stop me this time. Like your predecessor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Wolfman Slack. You must be eliminated.
Name's Jack Gorilla Brent.
The Force is in my hands, you fool.
We have a lot of stars come in and see us often, but a couple of good friends of mine in the audience tonight, I want to point them out to you. In the audience tonight is Mr. Gary Kurtz, the producer of Star Wars and American Graffiti. Would you stand up, Gary? And sitting next to him, I think, is Carrie Fisher, who played, of course, Princess Leia from Star Wars. Carrie Fisher, would you stand up, please? Huh? There she is. Let her know you love her. All right. Thank you all for coming down. We sure did have a nice time. And we do love you. And I tell you, enjoy the park. Come back. We got 2 more shows tonight. Get your balloon.
Good music on the radio. Wolfman Jack playing rock and roll. You can lose your sanity. Wolfman, Wolfman Jack. Wolfman, Wolfman Jack. Wolfman, Wolfman Jack. Wolfman.
During our production season of Screams, the Halloween Haunt family lost one of their brightest stars. Melanie Ann Smith, head of the makeup department for The Haunt, passed away on December 5th, 2002. Mel's talent and presence was a major part of the makeup department for over 20 years. In fact, most of the creatures found at the Halloween Haunt were created from her imagination. She could simply sit down with a ball of clay and sculpt it into a work of terrifying art. Every day before work, she would say a prayer and ask God to let her touch the lives of 1,000 souls. Mel accomplished that, and so much more.
Mel was a unique individual. Mel was incredibly talented, actually beyond what I think everybody knows her for her haunt work, but she was incredibly talented in music, incredible voice, a voice that just you would not expect out of that individual. Art, drawing, paint, the woman was multi-talented beyond haunt.
I've had the pleasure of being in her makeup chair on several occasions, and just a wonderful lady.
She was open to your feelings. She was a great listener. A great listener. I mean, I can go to her with anything, and I did. I mean, there's a lot of times I went, stuff that was not even haunt related. I mean, things in my personal life or my career that weren't going right, or something had happened, I need, some advice. I would go to Mel. And we just had the best relationship in the world, and I would not trade it for anything. I mean, I've never had a relationship with anybody than I had with Mel. That close, never.
If you were a friend of Mel's, you were family. I mean, she treated you like gold. That was something that I never had felt like that before from anybody, and it's like, she treated me like one of her own kids. She was always willing to take go the extra mile to help us out, at least from my experience.
She was my first makeup artist, and I asked her way more questions she probably wanted to hear. I actually shared this story at her memorial. When you're first in makeup, the makeup artists are working on you, and they have sometimes to get near your eyes. And we as makeup artists kind of joke about it, that when you say look up, then you can always tell the new people from the people who've been there a while, because if you've been there a while, you look up because they need to get into your eyes. Well, as a new person, you say look up and you go, yeah. And so she laughed at me and she kind of teased me about that a little bit because I was looking up. She was great. She taught me, I mean, in those little moments, she taught me a lot. Later on, she taught me more than anything. That she's the reason why I do makeup now.
Just working, you know, I don't even know, 30 feet away from Mel was just an experience in itself, because no matter what I was doing, I could always look over and see what she was doing, and I'd always be at least inspired because it was always amazing. I mean, just extremely talented, creative woman.
Mel, incredible talent in so many ways. Mel came to my makeup class and she was very strong, very outgoing, and very dedicated. But when she started doing makeup, I realized that she was very talented. So of course, after she finished that class, it was immediate, you know, do you want to work at Knott? And she said, of course, absolutely. I picked her because of her personality, because her eagerness, intelligence, and talent. She was so talented.
She will always take the moment, take the time, talk to someone who has a question, someone who has something they need. Can be very encouraging and motherly to the monsters. And just the compassion for these people and taking care of people. And this is what she did.
She did have a way of trying to make people feel comfortable. And sometimes that's really hard to do.
I kind of get almost an unsinkable Molly Brown kind of vibe from her. Just kind of telling it the way it is.
Mel was passionate about life, about her art, about people. That they, you know, that those who needed the nurturing were nurtured, those who needed the push were pushed. To see the best come out of everyone, including herself. She pushed herself really hard.
She always encouraged us to expand what we do, our knowledge, go read books, go see movies, go to the conventions, go, you know, whatever you can. And if you have an idea, run with it. She wanted us to be the best we could at what we did.
She's very creative in that sense. She has a vision. Firm on the outside, but when you got through, the sweetest lady there was, most caring. She cared about the monsters a lot. She knew we were working hard. She cared about the other makeup artists.
She created an environment that was very creative. She fostered that in our makeup artists. Someone would come up and say, hey, can I try this? And she goes, sure. Or can I do that? Give it a try, see what it gets you. And she was always there to guide them through the technical aspects, and it's like, whatever it was, just make sure you don't hurt the monsters, because the monsters were her babies.
So many layers, so many, and probably I'm her biggest fan as a performer. And when she was on stage, she could be magical, especially if she sang. She was an incredible performer. So, yeah, I've been a big fan of Mel in that sense, and then she's been my partner, she's been my student, she's been my right hand.
Thank you for your commitment to the craft, for bringing such a rich imagination to all the characters, and especially the love. I think she loved every one of the people out there.
Thank you so much for your support. You loved this website. You felt that what we were doing has integrity, and you being on board with us meant the world to me.
I'd like to say thank you. Thanks for being an example to follow. Thanks for being part of the solution. Melanie was everything that Han is supposed to be.
I love you. Miss you. And it just comes down to I just wish I could have spent more time with her.
Thank you for caring so much about my safety, my well-being, and putting so much into the haunt experience behind the scenes for us, because that's what she did. She did it for us, as well as herself. But she, or you, Melanie, gave a lot, and it showed. I'll take a time out there.
Thank her for all the good advice she's given me in my professional life. I'm self-employed, and I owe a lot of good decision-making to Mel. And thank her for teaching me how to think things through and evaluate all my options and just move forward. And just being a wonderful, wonderful friend that she was.
Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for her kindness to people, to me. Thank you for her support.
There's probably a lot of things that I would say to Mel right now, but the most important one I think would be thank you. And the reason I say thank you is because had it not been for her believing in me and the talents that I have, I would not have moved over into Warehouse P starting to do makeup. I wouldn't have done sculpting ever in my life. I wouldn't have known how to cast anything. I wouldn't have been confident that the work that I do is good enough to be seen by other people. Linda started me on that journey, and Mel grabbed my hand and just dragged me, almost kicking and screaming, because I was like, I don't think I can do that. She took me, and she really took me under her wing and taught me everything that I know about makeup at this point. And so to her, I owe her a great big huge thank you.
That I love her and I miss her. I just wish she was still here with us. It's not fair that somebody like her has been taken away from us so, so abruptly like that.
Tell the team captain that we'll still keep playing the game.
Persevere. Persevere. Do it positively. Don't do negatives, because that's going to mess you up every time. Be a positive person. Be inventive. Be intuitive on the needs of others and yourself. Be imaginative. Don't ever let anyone tell you you don't have talent. And maybe you don't look like $1 million, but I tell you what, if your hands work, that's all that matters. These are the most important things. This, and this is the most important things as far as I'm concerned. So don't ever let anyone tell you you're not good.
The following is a quote from Melanie's prayer and was taken from a letter the family wrote. Love is not something you can hoard or even hold on to tightly. It can only be given away to others. In that giving, your supply is not diminished. It multiplies. Love always grows. When it goes forward from you to others, it also comes back to you. Her mother goes on to say, I see before me many of you who have been the recipient of her love, from her teaching, her work, encouragement, and inspiration. I see also in each of you the fulfillment of the prayer she prayed. God bless each and every one for your love of Melanie Ann. You've proven not only did she greatly love, she was also greatly loved.